And then the panic starts because you outsourced everything still to low-cost countries without impacting the carbon footprint. And the next big drama will be the F-gas ban, when you suddenly realize, oh, CO2 compressors are impossible to produce in high-pressure die casting, and there aren't even enough forging lines to supply one OEM in whole Europe. And then the panic starts, as 2026, from there on, all platforms have to have a new climate system implemented.
I think you're right. And I think many of the car makers appears to be a one-question company, meaning they can address one big question at a time, and everybody's been so occupied with rear floors and gigacastings, so everything else has been a little bit to second place. So, welcome to the Christmas episode at Goldcasting Podcast. Today is one of the, for us, most fun episodes to be making. It is about the horoscope for next year, 2025, the year that we all hope very much about. But also it is a great embarrassment for us in some views, because we also are going to look how well did we predict 2024. We have a lot of things to say, right, Fabian? I think we're pretty loaded.
We did a lot of predictions last time for this year, and now we have to face the consequences and look back on yesterday's Staffan and yesterday's Fabian and see what these two guys told us. Now we're 1 year wiser, hopefully, and we'll see how it turned up.
We'll see. It will be a lot of laughter today. It will be in a very high tempo, because I think we have a lot of things to talk about, actually. From serious stuff to a little bit more fooling around. So the episode works this way. We're going to look what we said, how did it play out, and then we will discuss what we think will happen in the next year. Here we go. What did we say? I take the first one, because... It's pissing me off, actually. We said
that was really terrible from the timing.
Yeah, we will hear the announcement of Asian car makers establishing production in Europe. And at the time we did the recording, I think it was the day before, the day after, apparently BYD announced the factory in Romania. So we were extremely right, but the timing-wise, we were 1 week too early. So it is, if you're German, you would say it's 2023. I still claim it's almost 2024. So I cannot take half credit for that one.
Also, the announcement was in between our recording and the publication of the episode.
So please forgive us.
So
then we said number 2.
Adjacent to the OEM from China coming in, we also said that we see 5 foundry groups that coming in. And what we've seen now is Mint and Millison. They've started, especially in Eastern Europe. But after that, I think it slowed down a bit.
Yeah, I think we were right. And I think we were even more right, because what I also understand is that many of these Chinese foundry groups, they actually have to divide their investments to invest also in North America. If it wasn't for the ongoing trade war with the US, I think we will see more investments in Europe.
I think North America is especially now the larger market, as Europe's declining went even further than we predicted. So investing in North America seems the better place to sell your car, as you have now these high taxes on the Chinese EVs. And I think also another effect is that the European foundries, that will be my prediction for this year, that we see not build Chinese foundry groups building new factories, so they still continue to buy European existing foundries, as it's way cheaper to buy them out of their Chapter 11 insolvency than build up everything from scratch.
Yeah. You know, one factor that actually hinders them a little bit is the unease to bring money for investment outside of China. Have a client building up a factory outside China that took the longest time was to get the approval to bring out the money for the investment, not to design the house, not to build a house, not to do anything else. The longest time was this factor. So we will see. So Should I take the embarrassing one?
Take it.
We said that the work with sustainability will explode in 2024, and the guys with the consultancy that knew anything about CBAM and carbon taxes will do extremely well because, hey, everybody needs their help. I haven't seen anything, with a few exceptions. Basically, I mean, the guys leading it from my perspective. I'm a humble guy in a small foundry supplying a company in Sweden, but I work with pretty many OEMs and design owners, and the only guys that has done something about CBAM and sustainability is actually the telecom industry. The only thing I hear from the car guys is that, yeah, it's important. Okay, shall we talk about it? No, that's someone else. So,
yep. If you see who is taking the initiative, as we had it with Polestar in the episode, they're really taking it serious. If you look at buying castings, yeah, it's a nice to have feature, but at the end, it's still the same. It goes down who's the cheapest, and then it goes to the cheapest, whatever the quality, whatever the sustainability.
I even had an example where a big car producer was offered to buy extremely low carbon dioxide driving alloy, and the price tag was like 0.0456 something, okay, around less than a half of a euro per kilogram, and they said no, that's too expensive. So that is how much it's worth. So not big hopes from my side on that one.
And also there is something, a trend where you hear it from several areas popping up, that there are countries out there that are more flexible with the truth. So when it comes down to sustainability, you have in a city 60% is coal powered, and then 20% water power, 20% nuclear power. So then it's divided up. All the public gets the coal power, and that one foundry is only getting the 100% sustainable water power. Also the same with the alloy supplier, and all noted and certified by the government.
Yeah, they're pretty good sales guys. They're selling that waterfall 3 times up every time.
Exactly. Yeah. And that thing is also then you can avoid the CBAM because you're very low on carbon footprint, but still the transport routes are still the same thing. You're getting a totally different area.
Yeah, but it's very sad. It's very sad. But we were wrong. We can just conclude we were super wrong on this.
But we also claimed that the first one with the environmental scandal won't sell any cars in the future. That company is going to die.
Probably.
And we're still up on that. I think that's a question of time when the first thing will come out.
I used to say to my kids, I'm always right. It's just a question about time. And I was like Tooless Joe. Do you know Tooless Joe? It's a cowboy. And he's so quick to shoot his revolver, so he didn't get it up from his holster, you know. So every time he pulls the trigger with it in the holster, meaning he shoots his toes off. So I'm a toeless Joe right now. But we have another thing that we actually did right. Point number 5. We said the first signs that governments or other governments in short are challenging the decision to ban ICEs in Europe. And we have seen it.
The discussion started up. We've seen the pushback from the Euro 7 specification from 2026 to 2030. And now there is I don't know how open it is, but there's the discussion to completely amend the ICE ban.
Yeah, but the Italian government and Czech government have done this officially. Yeah, so I would say it's not a bunch of guys whining somewhere or a founder organization or something. It's governmental organizations saying, we cannot follow this. So we were right about that one.
Yeah, perfect.
But then we were wrong about this major EV scandal.
No, I haven't not heard happened anything. Yet.
No, it has not.
Me neither.
Yet.
Let's wait and see if it comes 2025 when the first activists check up on the supply chain and see what's going on. That the power plant next to the foundry is not supplying the foundry as the only power source for the whole region.
Yeah, we'll see. Then the final one. Tesla will still be the most popular brand in EVs sales in Europe. And we are right, and we are right.
We're definitely right. but they is slowed down more than we expected. So BMW, especially Germany, came close in the EV sales. But still, Model Y is the most sold EV in Europe.
Yeah, and if you look at the world, you have Tesla. What is it? Model Y is the biggest one, and Model 3 has the third place, I think, and in between you have BYD. Tesla soaring up to some 1.5 million cars. BYD, all cars together, is somewhere around 2.6 million cars. Things
but
are
it
happening.
Even got harder for them as well. You've now seen probably the pictures where they put all these cars on big parking lots and abandoned airfields. So being a renter of airfields should be quite profitable now.
Or if you find a magic way to sell more EV cars, then you probably will have a very nice salary, I would say. Bright future.
Oh, yeah.
In summary, we were very wrong on the things that matters, the sustainability environment, and we were very right about other things. And then we have a couple of ones that are a little bit in the gray zone that probably will kick in and happen really, really much in 2025. We think. We hope not, but we think, I would say. So, shall we leave this embarrassing moment behind us and look forward to 2025?
Yeah, let's move the embarrassment 1 year into the future.
Yeah.
And start our prediction. What's your first one, Staffan?
Oh, this is going to sound super serious. I think 2025 is the first year that we will start to discuss the digitalization in the foundry industry really and for real. Why do I think so? Simulation software has been around for quite some years. What is it, 10, 15? People started to trust them 5 or 10 years ago, I guess. We're very under academic industry. But I see so many things happening. I see initiatives, good or bad, everything from marketing. I see for DFX, planning, tool designs. I see, pretty much the whole way. And I also hear, not very officially, but there are some really interesting alternatives or applications being developed with AI. So it might be that we will see it at the Eurogas in 2026 in January, but I think it will be popping up now. If all Chinese and Asian manufacturers are moving into Europe because of the trade war, everybody's playing a little bit more on the same taxes, same labor costs, same everything. So how do you compete? Well, you have to compete to be the best service provider towards your designer or your OEM, if you like. And then speed, accuracy starts to become a major factor. And that is calling for better support, better tools. And I think the software industry is slowly adjusting to this. I mean, I see simulation softwares with CBAM carbon dioxide calculators. They have cost comparison calculators. Things are coming now that it's much broader and much more of them. So this is something I hope to see in 2025. Start of the digitalization of European foundry industry.
Yeah, especially you need these softwares. For example, you really use production planning softwares in high-pressure die casting, as you have 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 casting machines that go through the heat treatment line and then go on specialized milling machines and then out of the production. With now the volumes dropping, if you want to be profitable, you have to whole production be more flexible. And if you have interchanging lines, these things really need to be planned out. So that's another thing, that if you adjust for lower volumes, your production, you're not able to do that without software.
So we both agree this is happening.
Yep.
And then your favorite, what is that, Fabian?
My favorite is this time there will be a panic somewhere around probably mid-summer, around that, when you see the forecast, what are we spending next year on CBAM taxes? And then the panic starts because you outsourced everything still to low-cost countries without impacting the carbon footprint. And the next big drama will be the F-gas ban, when you suddenly realize, CO2 compressors are impossible to produce in high-pressure die casting, and there aren't even enough forging lines to supply one OEM in whole Europe. And then the panic starts, as 2026, from there on, all platforms have to have a new climate system implemented.
I think you're right. And I think many of the car makers appears to be a one question company, meaning they can address one big question at a time, and everybody's been so occupied with rear floors and gigacastings, so everything else has been a little bit to second place.
Also, these things are not done by the OEMs. They push it down the chain to the tier ones, and they are under such a cost pressure that it falls down a bit, at least in the projects I'm in. That's okay, we have to do something, and then it will take 4, 6, 8 weeks for some trials, and then we come back, and then it's another 4 weeks because we have to push in something else. So there's no urgency for something that has a fixed deadline.
That's interesting. But marketing, we have two. I saw in the script here, we got two favorites, a little bit on the same theme. I say that in 2025, I think that the die casting industry will start to communicate with its surroundings. The reason why I think so is that the times are so bad in Europe in general, but in specific in Germany. So I think it starts to become a problem not only for foundry owners, it will start to become a problem for designers, micro society, meaning the small town where you have your foundry, and also nationwide. And in this turmoil, I think or hope that someone or some kind of organization will step forward and start to communicate. Because it's been too silent. And we have a very bad situation in Germany. The reports I hear, at least, are very bad. And if this continues, how are you supposed to assemble a car? And ironically, why it will be giving more and more interest will be the effect it will have on the small but yet production of cars that we have in Europe. Because when the foundry starts to die, you have a shakedown effect, a part is missing, a subsystem is not delivered, the car line is standing still. And this has always been the case in our industry, but I believe that there's a magic limit where you'll see when the number of cases are increasing over this limit, you will start to see severe delivery problems of vehicles.
I'd like to add that in the past, if one key supplier wasn't able to deliver the parts because he had quality issues or facing insolvency, the OEM stepped in, saved the company, sent people there just to keep the production line going. But now they are also in financial trouble, so these helps won't happen. It's more like, now we have a scapegoat and punish him with even more bills.
Yeah. To what? The bankruptcy. That's why I'm saying there's a certain line.
No, it's just taking the blame somewhere else. Yeah. And that thing is going to happen. And my take on that is a bit different, that we will see the first fine marketing efforts of foundries, as I think somewhere in the first quarter 2025, at least the last foundry somewhere will have realized, there are no real new contracts up on the portals. And we have to look for themselves. And then I think there will be so many copy-paste solutions from ChatGPT, filled with buzzwords, targeting no one, just claiming the same bullshit you have on your high-gloss flyers, just in digital form.
But it will increase the buzz. It will increase the noise. So the question is, who will actually stick out of the noise with some kind of content that will attract interest?
Yeah, I think that there's so much noise then that nobody will interact with that, and the algorithm say, okay, if it's about from that area, and just scales down the reach for the whole industry. And I think these are a big problem that will come up, that if you don't have a tailored marketing strategy that people care about what you're telling, you will have a very bad time. And then you will have the conferences and where people say, we did marketing, we did 3 LinkedIn posts and it didn't work, we don't have a new part. And everybody else chimes in, yes, we had 5, and for us it was the same. It's so terrible, impossible to do marketing for the foundry industry.
The problem is that basically we're speaking about money here, and all discussions to get money, either from a purchaser or something else, always takes a lot of time. And the question is if it's too late. But on the other hand, Fabian, we shouldn't be sitting on 2 high horses here. It's great if we see more people doing it, because then they are on the learning curve.
If people start and then pick up on the way. That's basically what we are preaching in our marketing episode. Start somewhere, and try to develop something. But then it's the question, who will do it? Will it be outsourced to HR because they are feeding something about the Christmas party already on the platforms, or will it be someone who actually knows something about the business?
But in every crisis, there is always a lot of opportunities. I mean, if someone dies, then someone else has to step in, and why not take the initiative?
Exactly, but we also have several episodes where we thought about what are the typical issues that come up, because cost saving will be more and more important, and there are ways to get new parts on high-pressure die casting machines, but you have to do something differently and approach the right people with the right solutions. And a buzzword-filled LinkedIn post doesn't do that.
But didn't we do an episode in the beginning of our career a year ago about becoming a pirate and stealing volumes?
No, it wasn't about being a pirate. This was the top 10 nominations to grab in 2024.
Yeah, we didn't dare to do the pirate one. We chicken out. Maybe it's time now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a good experience with doing something about the shipping and the captains.
Yeah. Let's get back on that one. So next one. You say car sales still dropping. Would you care to elaborate?
Yeah, I think buying a new car is something you do in a better economic. And for example, if you have companies that renew their fleet on several locations when the leasing runs out or something like that, then there will be a trend to more cheaper cars, maybe something like a Skoda, Dacia, that type of area, or will be just the Chinese. If you compare them, they are probably 40 to 50% cheaper than the European brand. And then you have to factor in that you don't, at least in the German cars, you have to be happy to get a steering wheel when you buy the base model. That's already 50% more expensive than the Chinese one.
Yeah.
And if you compare the software which you use to your phone, it's basically like booting up a 20-year-old PC.
Don't get me started. The infotainment system of my car. I can drive from here to Södertälje without the damn thing popping up and understanding it's me driving the car. And for you who doesn't know the distance between Täby and Södertälje, it's 52 minutes. Feel that.
I don't know, but it's a topic where we don't have a big clue to what is going wrong and how to solve that, as it's not our area.
No. I had 1 week training in programming at the university out of 5 years of study. So imagine my focus. But then you think that ICEs will increase in volumes. So now you have to explain yourself. You say the car sales are dropping, but the ICEs will actually pick up.
Yeah, so the overall, I think they will be dropping. But if you see when we have 2024, the relation between what is the car volume in ICE volumes and hybrids and what is the volume in EVs, there will be a shift going towards more the ICE cars. As many people say, okay, if you need a new car, we don't know what the charging is, we don't know what battery technologies come. There's so much new coming in. We stick to that, what we're having, and then what we know, and that's an ICE car, and then we see from there. Or you have people that say, oh, that's so complex. I want to go on vacation once a year and have to drive 600 kilometers for that. I cannot drive an EV.
I think it's about the price. More and more people realize that if you drive an ICE, let's say 50,000 euros, cheap one, then something else is 65, 70. You can fuel up pretty many times for 15 to 20,000 euros.
Yeah, and also you've seen since the last upswing of the EVs, fuel prices got a bit cheaper than they used to be.
Yeah.
And I think it's also the price pressure on the initial purchasing is more imminent and more critical than the cost saving along the way.
Yeah, but let's face it, 60, 70, 80% of the population needs something cheap. Me too. The thing is, loyalty, brand loyalty doesn't exist in that group of people. It's about mileage per euro. Very simple.
Yeah, or did I have to fit 4 people plus the luggage? And which car can fit that in? And then which is under that gap? Because that's the money I'm willing to spend.
Yeah. Then I have one, I don't know, maybe a little bit philosophic. I promise not to start to cry if I start to sound like a Hollywood actor or something now. But besides die casting, besides casting, besides everything that we normally talk about, one prediction I actually have is that it has been looking pretty dark around the globe. A lot of pain, a lot of suffering going on in Ukraine and North Korea and all around that. But I just saw the news, Mr. Assad is fled to Moscow, which was a BYD moment for me, because here comes one of my predictions outside our industry. I think the dictator starts to fall in 2025. I was hoping to see Assad after New Year's, but happily for Syrian people, it happened a little bit earlier after, 30 years of torture and bad conditions in that country. I think this Ukraine war is actually, I think we're seeing an end to it. And the reason why is I saw the interest rate in Russia is 27%. The ruble against the dollar surpassed 110. I mean, it started 35 something a couple of years ago. The state of Russia is bankrupt. The last noted big deal they made with a foreign country was Afghanistan, where paid in potatoes and oranges. More than half of the fleet of airplanes for civil aviation is still on the ground because spare parts. There's so many things. So Russian society stops work, and now they have used the retirement funds for buying new tanks. They have lost something like, 800,000 people in Ukraine. They have a revolution ongoing where mothers are asking for DNA samples and testing so they can know if their sons are dead or not. It's terrible. It's terrible. But what I'm saying is that I think with that war, the career of Mr. Putin is probably dying as well. I also see some signs that they're not going in the right direction for other dictators or terrorist states. So maybe, I hope, cross my fingers, next year, 2025, when we're sitting here, we can conclude that, it's a great turmoil out there. It's bad in our industry, but at least the world has been a little bit more healthier when it comes to democracy and freedom.
Yeah, that would be great for all the people that have to fight in the war or affected by the war, that it stops and they can get back to normal lives. Another thing that I see in a global market is that the market will be more segmented. That with Trump coming into power, America first is fully implemented. So you have a lot of production moving into NAFTA or even the US market to avoid the whole tariffs coming up. And that's the thing what we have seen with the investments in Europe, that the investments are moved more to Mexico and US to get into that market as well.
I don't know what I think about this. I mean, one piece of my brain thinks that more customs, more tariffs will actually increase inflation rates and other things, and that in the turn will lead to higher interest rate, and then cooling down the economy, and we are in a big long recession wave. I mean, that's one way of seeing it. Another way of seeing it is that finally someone is taking up this subject and realizing that we have certain countries where the subsidiaries for making aluminum, producing something with aluminum, and then shipping it to us is so high that we will never compete on the same ball game. So, I mean, it's maybe this truth is somewhere in between. I don't know.
Yeah, but for me, if you have now, for example, what we have digital products, these things don't have borders. So it's easily to get them transferred. And I think if you do as a foundry, do bold things, do something differently, you will have a very prosperous future. As for example, you have a foundry that is producing in North America, shipping to Europe. Why don't you call them up and, for example, do a cooperation? You do the European volumes and I do the American volume, and you split them just differently and get new business with a new global alliance as become a opponent to the big foundry groups that have foundries all over the world.
But these things always happen. Well, I mean, the second you invent a new law, a new rule, people start to try to figure out how to bypass it in the most optimal way. So I mean, just because you put a tax on something, it doesn't mean that you get 100% of the taxation right from the government point of view.
No.
So
that has never been. There's always more people in the industry that are way smarter than the politician making the laws.
Probably. But I think you're right. People will start to form alliances and do interesting stuff, yes.
And I think that's also what I would like to see, and see more that doing bold things, doing things differently will propel you in a new sphere that you grow in a situation of crisis. But
Yeah, I
one
think
thing
you're
is
right.
very clear, that company that wants to save their way out of a crisis, they won't make it.
No. Speaking about savings, another thing I strongly believe for 2025, it will be not a drama or a revolution or anything, but I think we will start to see even officially signs that things are slowing down very fast in China, and they have some severe problems with the number of Chinese children being born, unemployment rate in youngsters with an university diploma and things like it, but these are small things, but the big thing will be the real estate crisis in China that has to come somewhere. And a little bit surprised that we didn't hear about it more in 2024. But I kind of think that this will cool off also the amount of subsidiaries and things that they can do in China, and that will also even out competition, make it a little bit more fair. However, I think Europe is so hurt already, so we're looking at an ice age, very short ice age of 3 to 5 years from now on, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I see who can pick it up, and I'm betting that there will be a lot of movement to North America. That will be one of the strong markets. Technology, I think, moving to Japan, and I think a lot of production will go to India.
We used to say in our small company that in Europe we actually do a lot of research and we invent a lot of things and then we forget about it. In the US they pick up things and start to make money on it and use it, and then in China, Asia, they really use it and scale it up, and then when it comes to Europe again, we regulate it to death.
Yep.
So that's what's going to happen with a lot of things. So this is why I actually think that the US market and the Asia as a big whole will actually take the lead of cars. And here comes a terrifying thought from my side. Sometimes I feel that European car making, at least in the more expensive brands, has seen the zenith of their days. I don't think they go bankrupt, but you will never see them as dominant as they were. Again.
Yeah, especially if you look really deeper into the companies, which percentage of that company is still in European hands?
Yeah, that's one question.
That volume is declining. I think there is Volkswagen with the large stake from the government inside the company, and BMW with the privately owned large stockpile. But for everyone else, if you look at the market cap of these companies, they are easy to acquire for larger corporations or other Chinese, Indian automakers, which we already have seen.
Yeah, but that might be a thing, and it's very easy to toss around those brands because everybody knows them. But I think that there's a segment that's even worse, and that's tier ones. They have absolutely no money.
No, there are no money. They cannot do any initiatives as they're bound by the OEMs. They are the squeezed middle child of the industry.
Yeah, and they're pretty easy to outcompete, I would say, in a way. Okay, Bosch is making 90 billion euros in turnover. And I mean, home appliances is what, 12? So they're pretty strong in the automotive industry. You don't have to compete overnight.
But what Bosch is doing is a lot of steering electronic for here, a control box there, all of these small things. And if you really go to a software-defined vehicle, they're all gone. And you can develop a squirter for the windows somewhere else. You can build the motors for the wiper somewhere else. So that huge knowledge pool for designing an EV, having them run efficiently, that's Bosch. For an EV, there's not that mode, and they're not building batteries. I compare it to an engine and a fuel tank in an ICE car. The engine is the most complex thing where you make the money, and the fuel tank is a commodity. In an EV, your electric motor is a commodity as you've bought them for decades from China to use for robots and everything else. The real money-grabbing thing, where you have the value of the whole car, is the battery. And we're not seeing too much of the European industry in that.
No, we have our proud battery factory here in Sweden, and it's almost no one who wants to place any bets when it's going into bankruptcy. It's more like, hasn't it already? So we'll see what happens with that one. Anyway, so what are we saying in conclusion? Well, digitalization, right? We will see more communication when the crisis really hits. You are saying we'll see more marketing. We hope to see more marketing. We say car production still decline, but ICE as a proportion will increase. We probably see also CBAM starting to create panic and F-gas ban. And then on a final note, I'm saying that I think it will be less with dictators this time of the year, next year. So that's pretty much it's not a bad horoscope.
Yeah, so I think it's now time to pop the champagne and embrace the new year. Do something bold. Take a list. Write down 10 things you want to do. And then when the alcohol wears off and you start the new year, reduce it to 3 and start working on the first one. And then you will have a great year 2025.
But what kind of New Year's resolution did you have? No, personal level. The one that you can speak openly about.
Actually, it's still so far away. I haven't done my list, but probably somewhere around not just paying for the gym, actually going there.
Okay, I actually managed that.
Already started that by hitting the first courses.
There you go. I promised myself for 2024 that I should reach 100 days of hunting, and I did. Very proud of it. Unfortunately, I only did 12 days of fishing. So for the next year, I'm hoping for 100 days of hunting and 25 days of fishing. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Write your recommendations for the New Year's in the comments. We would love to hear and compare them.
So thank you for listening.
Enjoy the Christmas time. Don't forget to subscribe. Yeah. And we see us in the next one starting on the 9th of January.
See you then. Sayonara.
Bye.